Hi there, my name is Jack Bourne. I'm the founder of Deadline Funnel, and in this video, it's going to be really important. I'm going to go through a 101 overview of exactly how Deadline Funnel works, because Deadline Funnel is completely different than anything that you've used before. I'm not just saying that to really boost your enthusiasm or anything like that. It truly is different. And so by being different, I want to make it easy for you to understand. So this isn't just some countdown timer that you put on a page. This integrates very closely with your funnel, with your automated sequences and all the different things that you have going on in your marketing technology stack, whatever that might be. So let's take a look here. What we have, I'll switch to red. What we have is we've got someone who's going to go through the funnel. Let's go ahead and give this person a name. So I'm going to name this person Bob. All right, so Bob's going to go through your funnel, and they're going to go through a sequence of 6 days of emails. And then what we want to do is at the very end, of course, we want to have our deadline. All right, so this is where we're going to add in our deadline. All right, and by adding in the deadline, we're going to maximize sales because anyone who's interested, Bob's opening your emails, there's going to be a deadline for Bob to take action. He's either in or he's out. Okay, so one of the things that we want to look at and understand is that we need to know how to synchronize this with Deadline Funnel. So a question that we get quite often is, okay, what's the purpose of the webhook or the HTTP post? Where do I put that in the sequence is another question that we get. So let's go back to the beginning here. Let's take a look at all the ways that you could start your funnel. So if these are new prospects, if Bob is not on your list, maybe Bob starts with an opt-in. Maybe Bob is attending a webinar. Bob also might be already on your list and say clicks a link to indicate that he's interested in some content. Or maybe you just have an action in your sequence that says wait a certain number of days and then move Bob into this automated sequence. A lot of times what happens at the very beginning, whether it's an opt-in, a webinar, a link, a time delay, is that there can be a tag. That's a very common way of moving someone into a sequence. But basically, whether Bob is new to your list or already on your list, there's going to be some sort of event that then brings Bob into this sequence. And now Bob is going to travel through this automated email sequence. All right, you with me so far? So let's go back to the question of, well, what is the webhook for? And part 2 is, where should I put it? Okay, so the very first thing that we recommend that you have happen, even before this immediate email goes out, that's what we call the day 0 email. Immediately, once they enter into the sequence, you might have an email going out. So what we recommend is even before that, as the very first step, you're going to send, let me change here, we're going to send a webhook. All right, and that's going to be a signal to Deadline Funnel. That's going to tell Deadline Funnel, hey, this Bob person, let's say it's bob@gmail.com, Bob just entered the funnel. And so we want to start the tracking for Bob. Now, let's say, and it's pretty common, let's say that for your first several days, you're really not even selling. So for these first 3 days, you're doing what we sometimes refer to as developing know, like, and trust. You're building your authority, you're teaching, you're training, and then you're going to transition into some selling emails. And I'm simplifying this a little bit because what I like to teach people is that really from the very first moment that you send your first email, there should be some positional selling. Okay, it doesn't feel like selling, but it should be positional. But just to keep things simple, let's just say that you're not giving them a link to go buy anything for the first 3 days. So why would we send the webhook? Well, that's because we don't know how Bob's going to interact with your emails. So we don't know if Bob's going to open and click every email the day that you send it, like you would like him to, or if Bob is going to open them kind of every other day. Click some, not click some. And so what happens when Bob arrives to the selling emails? When on day 4, when you send out an email, if Bob clicks it on the very first day, that would be ideal, but we can't guarantee that Bob's going to do that. Maybe Bob waits until day 5, and that's the one that he opens and clicks. Well, we need a system that is going to give Bob the correct deadline so that on day 6, when it's the final day and you're saying this is the last day to buy, that Bob is seeing the same thing when he goes to your website. So this brings us back to why we send the webhook at the beginning. Because you're going to set up a deadline funnel campaign that is the same number of days as your email sequence. So this is going to go to the deadline, and in this example, it's going to be plus 6 days. That matches the number of days that you have in your sequence. So if it's the same length, imagine it as two runners running the same race, and they run the same speed, and they're going to start at the same time. So if deadline funnel starts at the same time as your email sequence, it's going to end at the same time, so that in your last day emails, when you are saying today's the last day, sure enough, deadline funnel knows it's the last day. Now, how does it know? How does it know that? Well, there's the webhook, that's part one, and then there's part two, which is really, really important. So in all of the emails where you are directing your prospects, your subscribers to go and click through to check out your sales page, it's absolutely important that you use the deadline funnel links. And that's because two reasons. One is because that's the signal when they click our link, that gives us the information that we need to know, wait a second, this is Bob. Bob's deadline doesn't start today. Bob's deadline started 4 days ago or 5 days ago or 6 days ago, depending on which email Bob is clicking on. Deadline funnel automatically recognizes how many days, how many hours, minutes, and seconds are left in Bob's deadline. Okay. And so that's the powerful system where we can start the tracking at a specific known time. And then whenever Bob decides to show up and interact and click with one of these deadline funnel links, our system completes the circuit and says, oh, wait a second, Bob has 2 days left or 3 days left or however much time is left. And that's how everything is super accurate. And that's also how we keep things accurate so that when Bob changes from one device to another, goes from desktop to laptop to a mobile device to a tablet, one day he's opening an email in his home office, another day he's opening his email at Starbucks, waiting for his coffee to be ready. When he clicks the link in those emails, it's going to be accurate no matter what device he's on, no matter where he is in the world. And so that's how deadline funnel keeps that accurate. So what are the key things? Just to recap here real quick. So the key things are that no matter how you're starting the sequence, we really recommend that you kick off the webhook as the very first thing. There are some exceptions, but for the most part, you want to start the webhook at the very beginning. And then however many days your sequence is, just make your deadline funnel campaign the same number of days. So if they start at the same time, they'll end at the same time. And then the very most important thing here, or one of the most important things, is to make sure that you use our deadline funnel links in your emails. Now, here's another tip. I'm going to do this one in blue. Here's a really, really big, important tip. On the last day, don't just send one email. I recommend sending more than one, ideally 3, but if you can only bring yourself to send 2, at least send 2. You're going to make a lot more money by sending more than one email on the last day. This is what I typically call the perfect persuasion window. I've named it that because this last day is where you're going to make the maximum amount of revenue per email open, revenue per click, revenue per hour. This is where you really want to maximize things. And remember, the only folks who are going to see these 3 emails on the last day or receive these 3 emails on the last day is anyone who hasn't purchased, because anyone who has purchased, you should be pulling them out of the sequence into an onboarding or consumption sequence to help them get the most out of what they've purchased. So when they purchase, you want to pull them out of this sequence. So that is the 101 overview of how deadline funnel works. We've got a lot of documentation that shows you step by step how to set this up, but I wanted to give you this overview so that you have an understanding of the concepts behind deadline funnel and how the Evergreen system works, and why we say you need to put the deadline funnel links in all your emails, why we say to set up the webhook. So that is the information about how to set up your deadline funnel campaign.